Uh, well, yesterday I got back from 24 hours in Bristol, and I just wanted to record my experiences. I was invited to stay overnight at the house of Tim and Louise Chalice. Lovely pair of bhakti people. And Tim he sings beautifully, sings mantras, and his work is mostly with mothers and children, even babies, to share chanting with them. And also he shares with his local community from his own home, which he calls the Lighthouse. So Tim invited, we were about 15 people, we all sat together in his front room, and I introduced them, in some cases for the first time really, to the Bhagavad Gita. We chanted some of the Sanskrit verses, and I showed a slideshow, which is essentially it's a video compilation of images that were made by Charles Newington, my very good artist friend. He made these beautiful drawings, which I had used to illustrate my edition of the Bhagavad Gita, which I got on the shelf behind me. It's that's the book I'm speaking of, and it's full of these lovely drawings that Charlie made. Let me just show you. Here's one, which it illustrates the soul in this world, in crossing over the ocean of birth and death in the boat of knowledge, and the flames represent the power of pure knowledge to burn to ashes the burden of karma, which we all have been carrying in this world. So that's part of the Bhagavad Gita. And we spoke about how the journey into the spiritual wisdom which Krishna communicated in the Gita begins with, very often it begins, certainly in the Gita itself, with entering into a place of emptiness, perhaps a great grief or crisis in one's life, and out of apparent darkness and hopelessness opens this door to divine wisdom and light. So I shared that, and we had a great time. Actually, it was lovely. At the end, we chanted, and I have to say that Tim and Louise's friends, they sing beautifully, and so we had a lovely kirtan into the evening. And I stayed overnight with Tim and Louise and played with their children, or they played with me, and we had a lovely time. They're so full of life and energy, lovely, beautiful family. Then the next day, yesterday afternoon this was, I went with Ganga Devi, who some might know as Gail Stavekar, and we met the Krishna community. There's a small Krishna community who meet every week in Bristol, and actually it's the first time I've joined them after all these years. There were about 15 or so, or maybe 20 people came, and I shared with them the opening verse of Sri Chaitanya's poem called Shikshashtaka, which is the Shiksha means instruction. It's the 8 verses. Astakam is a name for an 8-verse poem. It's the 8 verses of instruction, which is the only composition that Sri Chaitanya made in his life on earth. He lived for 48 years, and he was a very learned scholar in his youth, but he gave everything up. He gave up all academic pursuits just to devote himself to a life of chanting and sharing his profound love for Krishna. And these 8 verses, which he didn't write down, but which were recorded by his followers, have been passed down to us, and we have this beautiful Sanskrit poem. So we looked at the first verse, written in Sanskrit. Let me sing it to you now. It's Cheto Darpanamarjanam Bhavamahadavagni nirvapanam Shreya Kedava Chandrika Vitalanam Vijavadu Jivanam Anandam Buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamritasvadanam Sarvatmasnapanam Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. This is saying, is glorifying the blessings that follow from singing the holy name of Krishna, Sri Krishna Sankirtanam, singing it not alone but together with others, is perhaps the most potent way of experiencing Krishna's name, is to sing it in a group with other people. He says this is such a blessing when we sing together. We experience, he compares the chanting to the full moon that expands and sheds its pure, inspiring, peaceful light. The serene light of the full moon spreads in the heart, and the heart is like a mirror. The chanting cleans the mirror of the heart, which allows me to see myself, to see the world, and to see the source of all, the divine source, Krishna. All this can be found in my heart when my heart is clean. If my heart is filled with anxiety and agitation, as so often it is in this world, if my mind is filled, I use the word mind and heart sort of interchangeably here. If my mind is like a muddy water, I can't see into the muddy water, but when the water is still, the dust settles and it becomes clear. Then I can see myself, then I can see the source of myself, Sri Krishna, and then I can see the whole of Krishna's creation and all other living beings. We can see each other as we are when the heart is purified. That's such a powerful effect of the chanting Krishna's name. It's like a river of transcendental sound that flows through me, through my heart. And the fire of material existence, living in this world, it's just like being in a forest fire. So much pain, which we become accustomed to, and we sort of take it in our stride, but actually we live in a place of pain and difficulty in this world. That can also be calmed and pacified. And as this happens, as my heart becomes cleansed, as I become peaceful, then the wisdom, which is the natural quality of myself, my true self, comes to the surface from within. That wisdom is part of the blessing of the holy name, which brings great joy. That is my nature, to be joyful. When we chant, we experience that joy in contact with the divine names. And step by step, that joy increases without end. Amrita is the word that Sri Chaitanya uses. Nectar, it means eternal nectar. This ocean of eternal nectar expands. Everyone can bathe in the ocean of the holy names of Krishna. So we shared that together, and then we sang it together. I've got here my little tambura, which I brought down with me, and we sang it together. Cheto darpanamajanam Bhava mahadavagni nirvarpanam Shreya kedava chandrika vitaranam Vijavadu jivanam Anandam buddhivardhanam Pratipadam Purnamrita Svardanam Sarvatma Snapanam Padam Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram